Today, we sit down with Ken Johnson, the visionary architect behind the Beecause humanitarian brand. Ken was born in Alliance, Ohio, the son of a Detroit diesel mechanic. After moving to Colorado, he became a dairy farmer. At the age of 16, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy and became an aviation electronics technician. Concluding his life as a sailor, Ken, among many other accomplishments, served as product manager for the legendary Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese Pizza, publisher, entrepreneur, and bee enthusiast. Let's dig in and ask better questions. Do you think that life has an inherent purpose, or do you think you're in charge of that purpose?
I think it's a little combination of both, actually. So if you are a spiritual person and you believe in, God or the universe or some higher being, I think that plus whatever it is internally that you have that drives you, goal-driven. I think you can have a goal and you can, pray or whatever, but you have to do things to go after it. I don't think it just happens.
So like a combination between the personal and the beliefs?
Exactly. Okay.
Your most spectacular failure?
That's a pretty easy one for me. Several years ago, around 2002, I was hired to do a research project for Viacom Paramount Pictures, and it was in regards to the Frasier television show. The company wanted to know if the Frasier brand could be turned into an actual coffee cafe or an actual brand of coffee. Now, having been somebody that watched Frasier, I did not know the name of the coffee shop that they visited. So it happened to be Cafe Nervosa, meaning nervous. Long story short, I find out that Walmart was interested in doing upscale gourmet coffee shops inside their super centers to compete with Super Target, or Target in their Super Target format. So I made a presentation to them, and they accepted it, and so we went and did coffee shop in Plano, Texas, inside of Walmart stores. Then, about 2 years later, a gentleman comes to the coffee shop saying that he would like to help make a big investment in the company. The second that I saw this person, I had not just little red flags or little pink flags. I mean, it was full-on marching band red flags about this person. And I ignored all of them. That ended up costing me later. And ultimately, it ended up costing me my entire business. So that was my most spectacular failure, primarily because my gut feeling, my intuition, whatever it was that was telling me, no. I'm like, forget all that, guys. You guys don't know what you're talking about. And I paid the ultimate price.
So what you learned is to follow your intuition.
Follow your intuition, your gut feeling. If you have that really strong thing, I think that's your, again, the universe, God, whatever, yourself. It's a protection mechanism for you.
What is the difference between that for which you're known and what you really want to do?
Well, I'm known for writing business plans. That's what I've done for, more than like 30 years. And so that's what I'm known for. What I really want to do is, I feel very blessed. I am doing exactly what I want to do. I took all of the years of business plan, writing experience, and helping companies raise capital, and I've been able to take all of that and pour it into what I'm doing right now.
What is your greatest success about which nobody knows?
Back in 1991, I was product manager for a company called Octus, which was, the chairman of that company was Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, as you mentioned earlier. I was in Las Vegas at the trade show, and my daughter at the time was 10 years old. And she called me and said, Dad, is the air and the water going to be cleaner when I grow up?
At 10 years old.
At 10 years old. And I'm like, sure. Yeah, of course. I'm sure it'll be. Then when I hung up the phone, I got angry, and I'm like, my gosh, what is the school doing? Filling her mind with all this stress. And then I said, well, what was I doing at 10 years old? I don't know. I think I was playing with my G.I. Joes or something, And so when I got back to San Diego, I went and did some research on environmental issues, and my eyes were really open. And this is 1991. And so I had my daughter write like a one-page thing about the hidden dangers in tap water, because that was something that all the kids could relate to. And so she took that paper it was just a one-page thing. Well, it was actually front and back. And so she took it to the school, and then the school had called a few days later and said, hey, Mr. Johnson, this is really amazing information. Would you mind if we shared this with the rest of the school? And I said, yes, but let me make a few edits to it. So what I ended up doing is taking that information, editing it, and I made it look like a little newsletter called Awareness Journal. Just to have some fun. I mean, really, I didn't, just was having fun. She took that to the school, they printed it, and then I started getting a lot of calls from parents because they wanted to know what could they do. Now that I've educated them about what the dangers are, well, okay, tell us what to do. Over the next year, I had done 3 editions of this Awareness Journal, and it eventually led to me being a guest on a talk show up in LA. I met Kenny Loggins, I gave him a copy. I mean, it was unbelievable. Nationwide distribution to daycare centers and preschools. So for me, that was like a really great success for me. Nobody knows about it. I mean, there's a couple people, but it was like, you know what? What it showed me is if you have an idea and you pour your heart into it, you can actually get something done.
So do it.
Just do it.
Ken, what makes you laugh?
Good,
You're really laughing.
good jokes, self-deprecating humor. There's a show on HBO, I don't know if it's still on now, but it was called, was called Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David, Seinfeld, Friends, kind of like mindless comedy stuff, because, life and, what I do in business is so intense, so it's just stupid comedies.
What is the most valuable thing you learned in the military, and is there something that you would change about the military?
Well, the thing that I learned in the military is it's a saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none, and that has stuck with me my whole life. 2 is 1, 1 is none has to do with mission critical items. So if something, for example, if you require a microphone to do an interview, as an example, since we're on set, and you only bring 1, well, and something's not right, the battery goes dead or whatever, you have none. But if you have 2 and one of them goes bad, you really have 1. So for mission critical items, I mean, even today when I pack my computer bag, certain cables that are critical, I have 2. I have 2 power supplies, I have 2 this, 2 that. So when people pick up the computer bag when I'm traveling, they're like, it's heavier than the big one that that I check. But that's probably the thing that stuck with me the most, and teamwork and those kind of things. What would I change? I would change, and I understand why the military is the way it is. It's attention to detail and all that kind of stuff. But there's a human element, that is in there. So if you are married when you join the military will tell you that, hey, we didn't issue her, so she don't count. Your kids, if you have kids, we didn't issue, we're not responsible. And they don't really mean it in that hard, cold way, but if you need time off because your daughter's sick or whatever, don't expect a lot of sympathy for the military. So when I watch the news about military things and, it's really terrible about the veterans and all that stuff, I get it. There's another side to that story. Because ultimately what happened to me is my wife at the time got pregnant, and she was due 2 days before I left to go out on cruise. So I pleaded my case to let me go meet the ship in Hawaii, and they wouldn't do it. So my daughter was born 2 days later, and I didn't get to see her until she was 6.5 months old. And so if you know anything about kids, and when babies are first born, that first few days and certainly the first 6 months of bonding is really, really important. And I didn't have that. So what made it worse is when I got back, 60 days later, they sent me out for 7.5 months later. So when I found out they were going to send me out again, I wrote to my congressman, who was Senator Gary Hart at the time, but he was campaigning for president, so I got no response. Eventually I did get a response, but it was like a pre-printed response. We've reviewed your case, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Have a nice cruise.
Oh my God.
So I felt that, and it's ultimately why I got out of the Navy. I would have stayed, and I was a 4.0 sailor, Navy Achievement Medal winner and all that, but I'm like, you know what, I can't do this.
7 months later.
Yeah. So by the time I really started bonding with her, she was 14 months old.
Wow.
And I never, even today, I mean, I'm not that close to her for that reason. I know that that's the reason.
Ken, who and what are the best things that influence you in your life?
I would have to say that a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn, who was a motivational speaker, author. I've listened to his programs for many, many years. I never met the gentleman, but I would say he had the most amount of influence through his teachings, and teaching things like patience and focus, things like that. For example, let me ask you a question. If I had a seed right here, and I said, you know what, you need to water this, and you watered it in the same spot for an entire year, would you keep watering it? Do you think most people would keep watering it?
After a year
and there's nothing there. You're just watering dirt.
Well, I have to know what kind of seed is it. Do I have any hopes? I have to know.
Okay, so how about after 2 years, would you do it? Would you keep watering that same spot every single day? 3 years. 4 years, you're watering the same spot in the dirt. After 4 years, would you still do it? Do you think most people would do that?
I think they would.
5 years? 5 years. 5 years, and you haven't seen anything.
Depends how important is the seed to me.
It's just a plant, Okay. I mean,
probably not.
Of the people that you know, would they do it?
I don't think they would.
No. And they probably would have given up after 6 months. Hey, you can plant carrots, you can plant all kinds of things, and within a few days, in some cases, you start seeing some activity. Well, the Chinese bamboo, which they grow to be 90 feet tall, for 5 years, you water that seed, you don't see anything until about 5 years and 5 months later. At 5 years and 5 months, that thing goes from ground level to 90 feet in about 6 months. So the reason that it does, think about 90 feet tall is really, really tall. So what's happening in those first 5.5 years is it's growing underneath the support system, the root system, so that when it grows, and it grows very fast, it can be solid and it doesn't fall over. That's kind of like business, and so those were the types of concepts that Jim, that I got from Jim. So I would say that definitely.
What is a better compromise, love or money?
Well, the politically correct answer for married people would be, of course, love. But I'll answer honestly, and I would say money. And the reason for that is money is a tool. Love is a great thing. We need it with our families and everything. But if you have love and not money, I don't think the quality of your life is as good. So I would definitely say, money, and try to find that balance.
That is because you want to give to the ones you love the best things you can.
Exactly, exactly.
Ken, if you could have one success of your choosing, would you choose family or business? Another tough one.
I would have to choose business. That's a really tough question. I think that in order to have a successful business, you have to focus on the business. If you want to have a successful family and all of that, you have to focus on that. So the challenge for people who are in business is to balance those two. And it's really, really difficult, really difficult. You see people that are really, really successful, really, really wealthy, and people get enamored, and it's like, wow, that's really great. But there's a trade-off, and most of us don't see it. I see it sometimes because I get invited into people's homes of successful people, and you pick up on all the things, that you think is not quite right. Because if you're so driven in business and you're in charge in business, it's kind of hard to take that hat off and then be with the kids or your wife or whatever and just be a normal person, because you're so driven on the business side. And for me, it's an ongoing struggle every day. That balance between business and family. But I know if I focus on the family 100%, then things will sacrifice on the financial side. The business will sacrifice, and that hurts the family. So that's always the yin and yang, or the the good versus evil kind of thing. I don't think there is such a thing as like the Norman Rockwell, perfect family. This guy's very successful, has a very successful business and incredibly successful family. Everybody's happy and it's all kumbaya. I've never seen it,
Can you spend 5 years in the coffee industry, right?
Yes, I did.
What did that industry teach you?
Well, several things that the coffee industry taught me. First of all, I love the coffee industry. When I did the deal with Walmart, I did not drink coffee at the time.
You did not?
I did not drink coffee. And the reason I didn't drink coffee is because when I was a little kid, I was like 12, 13 years old, I went duck hunting with my dad. So I had a little thermos of hot chocolate. Dad had one of those really big ones of black, I think Folgers or Hill's Brother, just black coffee, no cream, no sugar, no nothing. And it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. We walked back to the pond, which is about 3/4 of a mile from the house, and you're not allowed to shoot the ducks until sunrise. So we had to wait. So it's like 20 degrees. I'm freezing, and of course I drank all the hot chocolate, just to keep warm. And Dad's like, "Here, now that you don't have any hot chocolate, just have a sip of this. This will be fine." So I took one sip of that coffee and I spit it out. And I never drank coffee again. Not in the Navy, never. But then I had that opportunity with the Fraser thing, and so I made this presentation with Walmart. And it's actually funny. I don't know if anybody from Walmart's watching this or not, but the very first meeting that I had, I come in and they think I'm the coffee expert, and I'm not. I'm a marketing person, but I'm trying to do pitch them on doing a coffee shop. So the employees bring me a styrofoam cup with coffee from the lunchroom, and I'm looking at that thing and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I can fake liking this coffee. So they're like, here's some coffee for you. So you're the coffee guy, so this will be great. We want to know what you think. What do I think? Okay. And I just took a little tiny sip and I'm like, wow, you guys need a lot of room for improvement. And they're like, yes, that's what we've been telling management.
Mischoose.
Exactly.
What is the one thing that you would change in the world?
There's a lot of things I would like to change. We had an opportunity to go to Argut, Colombia back in October of 2017. And we worked all day at a food bank that serves the only meal that 150 kids in that community eat each day. And I don't know if you've ever gone to bed hungry. Like you go, your stomach's growling and you're like, it's too late, and you just go to, but it's not a good feeling. But having children who only eat one meal a day, or for them to go hungry, that's something that I definitely would want to change. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to change. I'd like to change how political parties, work together or don't work together. I mean, it just seems like there's so much anger in the world, almost regardless of what country. But if I could change one thing, I would say I would like to change and not have a child go to bed hungry.
If you could go back and give yourself advice, what would it be and when would it be?
I would go back to when I was about 14 years old, roughly, 13, 14 years old. I grew up on a dairy farm and grew up in Colorado. Almost anybody that grows up in Colorado, they know how to ski. I do not know how to ski. And the reason I don't know how to ski is because when you grow up on a dairy farm, you have to milk the cows twice a day. 4 to 4:30 in the morning and 4 to 4:30 in the afternoon. 7 days a week, every single day of the year. There's not enough time for where we live to do chores, get up to the mountains, ski, and get back and do chores. I mean, could I have? Yes, I would, but for all the hours I'd have to drive, it wasn't worth it. So all through high school, I got teased because I didn't have a lot of dates. Well, in fact, I had like 2. And so they made fun of me because I was a dairy farmer, and you can just imagine what those jokes would be. And so I kind of became a little bit of a recluse because of that, because I'm like, I don't need this. I mean, even at that age, I was like, I don't want this. I don't need this. So I spent most of my time working on the farm. I didn't go to parties and do anything because I don't like these people. So if I could go back to that time frame, I would tell myself, don't worry. Don't care about what people think about you or anything like that. If you have something you want to do, in that case it was the dairy farming, just ignore it. And the thing that's funny is that when I look back on all those people, not all of them, the significant majority of them, I feel much better about where I am in life than had I worried about all those kind of things. If you want to do something, just go do it.
I think that's a good advice for every year.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, he used to give me this advice, and he really instilled it in me when I was, going through my aviation electronics schools in Millington, Tennessee, when I was in the Navy. And I would call him up, Dad, this is going to be a tough test this week. And he's like, Ken, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You'll do fine. Like I've always told you, son, anything that you want to be in life, you can do if you just put your mind to it. And I used to make fun of him, he was like, Dad, where did you get that philosophy out of a Cracker Jack box? He opened it up and it was like, or a fortune cookie. But you know what? Even though it was really simple, it was kind of true. If you want to do something in life, no matter what it is, if you focus on it, you can do it.
We sometimes worry about things that doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Don't matter. What are you working on today? And how is that going to help people?
Well, I'm working on creating a global humanitarian consumer brand called Beecause. And what messaging app do you use when you communicate with people?
WhatsApp,
Facebook Messenger, Telegram, those kind of. Mm-hmm. And I have too, up until very, very recently. We have another project, which is where we've spent well, I've spent over 20 years working on this thing, and so this is even more than a bamboo tree for me. And it was to bring together countries to create a global humanitarian lottery, something that the United Nations has been trying to do since 1972, and they've never been able to pull it off, and I know why. You have to focus. Imagine, focus, execute. And so I spent all these years working on this humanitarian lottery, and a couple years ago, I decided that maybe the thing to do would be to leverage all of that experience in those relationships to create other things. And so I decided to create a humanitarian messaging app called Beecause. And so we started working on that with our engineering group. And what we're doing is we're taking a percentage of our revenue, not our profits, like most companies do. They'll say, oh, we give to charity, and it's always off after they've paid everybody and all this stuff, and so it's very, very little. And so when people use the messaging app, with the advertising and all that kind of stuff, we dedicate a piece of that goes to the Beecause Foundation. The Beecause Foundation is actually out there doing the work and doing charitable work. And we have complete transparency. We're using blockchain type technology for the ledger system. And on the apparel side and the whole branding side, we have, for example, when Hurricane Maria hit, we created these shirts with the bee characters. In fact, you can see, for when we get far enough along with the countries, we present them with a cup of their country and then a male and female bee character that kind of symbolizes their culture for every country that we do. So when we did Puerto Rico with the hurricane, they were saying, it's a way for us to deploy the bees to do humanitarian work or disaster relief and that kind of stuff. And so there's a whole line of apparel that's being designed actually right now. Change, not charity. That's one of our messages. And we think that if you give to charity all the time, the charities in general, they have their hands out all the time. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's the Red Cross or the Girl Scouts. That's how they operate, by donation, and there's not a problem with that. But when it comes to humanitarian issues, if all you're going to do is to give money and give money and give money, and you don't address or solve the core problem, then you're always going to be requiring funds. So our thing is to change the situation, not be a giving of money or a charitable thing. So that's kind of what we're doing. But it's like, for example, we created the soccer ball because we're focused on the Latin American countries, and so be the change. Is part of the message. This is the messaging app, so everything is on a humanitarian level that we're doing.
Okay, so you will be helping, one will be helping while chatting.
Yes. Whether they, so the thing is that, okay, so that doesn't want to work. Fine. We'll put it up here. The brand is Beecause.
It's nice.
If you look at what's happened to Facebook recently, they got caught up in congressional hearings because they were selling data without people's permission. So if anybody should benefit from the data that you put on, whether it's Facebook or that social media or a messaging app, it should be you. You should be benefit, because the truth of the matter is these companies cannot exist without us. If we don't use their products, they don't exist. So we developed the model with Beecause so that the users would have so much control that if you want us to have your data and you would like to sell your data, you tell us and you will benefit. So we're creating an entire cryptocurrency system to support that entire model. It's very unique, and we're really, really excited about this. Celebrity support and country support around the world is nothing short of phenomenal.
That's great, because there's nothing like this.
There's nothing like this. There's nothing. And a publicly traded company, they can't do it the way that we're doing it, because if they did, they'd have to give up revenues. And once you're a public company, that's the last thing you can do.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Actually, I do. And it's actually part of our core message with Beecause. And it was done, the quote was made by Gandhi. And it is the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would solve most of the world's problems. And I really believe that. I wish it was my quote. So if you want to make things better, then do something towards how you want things to be. Because if you don't, then you're just on the sidelines complaining.
And keeping the same stuff.
The same stuff, exactly.
Ken, we're going to have 7 quick questions, okay? Okay. Number 1. Favorite invention or technology?
iPhone, iPad, Centrifit. No. My favorite invention is actually an automatic mashed potato maker. That doesn't, it makes mashed potatoes automatic. Thing's great. You cut up the potatoes, you wash them, put them in this thing. You don't have to mash them or anything. Put a little bit of salt, a little bit of thing, and it steams them, and in like 45 minutes to an hour, and it automatically mixes them up. I'm a big mashed potato fan, but nobody wants to make fresh mashed potatoes. They want to do the box thing with the thing. I like fresh ones. So it's not super high tech, but I love the thing.
That sounds nice. I want that. If you could uninvent something, what would it be?
I think I would uninvent lights on phones in movie theaters.
Oh my God. You listened? You listened. Oh my God.
So anybody that uses their phone in the theater when I'm trying to watch the movie, that's what I'd like to uninvent.
Number 3. A talent you wish you had, but you do not possess.
Piano playing or guitar playing. I would like to be able to just pick up a guitar and sing a ballad to somebody.
But there's nothing like that.
But there's no talent for that.
What fictional character would you be?
Ooh, that's like a Jack Reacher cross between him and the Equalizer, kind of the Denzel Washington character, the one that kind of rights the wrongs, but not on the law radar screen. Yeah, kind of dark it is. We're doing all this humanitarian stuff, but there's another side of me.
The dark side of Ken Johnson. What is your favorite joke for a badass like you?
Okay, I don't know why I remember this joke, but it's the one that I'm not good at remembering jokes, but for some reason I can remember this one. So son turns 16, goes to his dad and says, "Dad, I'd like to borrow the car keys." And Dad says, "Sorry, son, can't let you do that." "Well, why not, Dad?" He says, "Well, your grades aren't very good. You need to bring them up. And quite frankly, your attitude's not very good either. And you need to get a haircut. Your hair is way too long." So a few months goes by, goes back to Dad, says, "Dad, I want to borrow the car keys. My grades are up." "That's true, son, they are. And my attitude's a whole lot better." "It is. There's no question about that. But you didn't get that haircut." "That's the thing, Dad. I've been thinking about that a lot. Moses had long hair. Samson had long hair. Even Jesus had long hair." And Dad says, "You're absolutely right. And that's why they walked everywhere."
Oh my God.
So that's the only joke I can remember.
I like that. What music is on your gym playlist?
I have a really diverse gym playlist. It's not like The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's playlist, because I actually got his. Mine is I like Bob Seger. I'm a 70s guy. So I listen to Bob Seger a lot. AC/DC.
80s?
Yeah, 80s. That's on my playlist. The Traveling Wilburys is on my playlist. And then I have Mike and the Mechanics, which is really a disconnect from those other groups. And I don't know, it's just really weird. But it's that kind of music. Sometimes it's like, depending on my mood, because music puts me in a mood, so I can be really mellow, I can be flamenco guitar. I'm like, oh yeah, this feels good. And then sometimes I just want to rock out and get in there and like, just do this thing.
Depending on your attitude.
Depending on the attitude.
Now, before we leave,
Yes.
What question should we have asked, but we didn't, and would you come back to answer it?
You didn't ask me about my experience as product manager with Nolan Bushnell, and there's a few stories there. And would I come back? Yeah, if Nolan's watching, I'm definitely coming back.
Nolan watches. Well, this was Better Questions. If someone wants to help, how can they get a hold of you or Beecause? Can you give us your website?
Sure, it's www.bethechangetoday.com, and that's thechangetoday.com.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. This was Better Questions with Ken Johnson. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I've made some statements that she never lets me live down. I mean, one of them was, everybody's nice in the beginning. Because when she first met me, she was like, God, you're so nice. I'm like, well, everybody's nice in the beginning. Because it's true, everybody's nice in the beginning. Exactly, because then they won't want to be with you. And then the other one she gives me a hard time is Valentine's Day. Because, well, to me, Valentine's Day, okay. First of all, I'm a marketing person. So I understand the retail industry. I understand they have to make sales. So they create these holidays that have nothing to do with anything, you know, to push product. So you're telling me that because I don't take you to dinner on Valentine's Day, that I don't love you? What about the other 364 days of the year? we go to dinner 100 times, but because one time we don't go to dinner on I never liked Valentine's Day.